the most underrated voice in all media. The Alternative's alternative. Chuck Ochelli.
Alrighty, guys and gals.
And it is the 26th day of February 2016. All right, guys and gals, here we go again. You might think something happened if you're tuned into American Freedom Radio. No, nothing odd here. It is the Ochelli effect as per usual, except, guess what? We are simulcasting live right now as we speak on Shake and Wake Radio at shakeandwakeradio.com. And I am joined by Rick and Annie, who you just heard about, baby. How you guys doing?
I'm alive. I'm living.
Move your mic close to you, Annie.
Yeah,
and your coffee IV is falling out again. What good are you going to be if that coffee just spurts all over the floor?
I got a coffee IV never
Grab me the duct tape and I'll duct tape it in your
No, you get away
arms
from
so
me
it
while I'll
doesn't
pet
fall
you with
off.
this cup. Leave me alone.
Everybody's
Yeah,
probably wondering
exciting.
what is going on here. Yeah, American Freedom
I
Radio.
don't know what's wrong with my common law wife here. We don't have a contract with the state, but I just wish you could snort a few lines of Folgers like
I'm not
me.
normal. I'm not normal, son.
You know, why can't you just snort a few lines of Folgers? No, you've got a mainline
I
coffee.
got a mainline folders. Sorry.
No wonder they won't let you in Colombia.
No, I'm bad.
Anyways, all kidding aside, it's been a crazy week, and I just found out something besides all the internet hacking and the fact that multiple internet providers have been crashing and going down all week long, and Patriot Radio hosts have been hacked and shut down and having multiple problems with chat rooms and their internet services. But I would like to mention, I just found out a couple of minutes ago from our good friend Shaziz. For those of you who don't know who Shaz is, I call him Shaz. He's the mad Tesla scientist, working on free energy, and he's also a believer in the creator. You know, instead of speaking of religion in terms that divide us, I once said to Jay Jinks and Paul Tapetti, you know, there's a creator and a destroyer, and anybody who can't see that we're trying to be destroyed by something that's Luciferian and satanic destroyer, well, you need to look closer and everything, and that we shouldn't be divided. We shouldn't be divided because of what the Catholic Church says or what Joel Osteen or Rick Warren or Council of Churches has to say, because they're all in on it, you know.
Mm.
And it's really time for us who love our children, who love freedom, who would like to have a world where we can have a dream and turn it into an entrepreneurial situation where we can help others have a better life and prosper from that, and to eat good food and not be poisoned through water or vaccines or a big pharma institute that's out to get us, a conspiracy that is not a theory, but it is a real thing that's going on. And I found out from Shaziz that the founder of one of the people who was operating Awake Radio has passed from lung cancer. He was sick for a long time. Everyone knows him as Steve. He lived in Ireland. He was a Scottish man who had moved to Ireland, and you know, he was disillusioned by the church, and we had our differences because, you know, everyone who knows Rick and Annie and our network knows that we're trying to push the historical Jesus, not the fake religion stuff, but the fact that he said, love your neighbors as yourself. So if you're going to allow laws that allow terrorism or people to be accused of terrorism and tortured, or you're going to allow people to have their property taken, or people who are down on their luck and homeless and starving to be taken away and imprisoned, or people who would feed the homeless to be called criminals. Whatever they do to the rest of us, and then I'm going to toss it to you, Charles. If we would allow them to do something to someone else because they could get us geared up about it, like it's okay to interrogate, enhanced interrogation, enhanced.
No, I hear you. I hear you, Rick. And
foreign people.
Here's what the thing is. Okay, and I love what you're talking about. I don't necessarily subscribe to the same exact narrative that you do, but here's the bottom line: those that are profiting off of the blood and pain of others are exactly the enemy, and I don't care how they do it. And they're not just the enemy of those of us who are speaking out. They're the enemy of all of us. And there is this little concept which prevails in most legitimate spiritual practice, which basically boils down to this. The way that one treats the weaker among them is the way that they'll be judged. And I believe that in all my heart. I don't necessarily, like I said, the historical Yeshua, Jesus, all these discussions, to me, this is not even the relevant point. The relevant point is that cruelty is something that none of us should ever be in support of, and we should learn to not participate in it in every single way that we can. Okay? A couple of house cleaning things here just real quick before we move forward, though. We didn't give everybody a fair understanding of what's happening here. Okay? American Freedom Radio right now is being heard on Shake and Wake Radio and vice versa. We're doing this, we're working together, because that's one of the things that needs to be done. We need to start working a whole lot more together. It's not about the division and the differences of opinion any longer. This is about survival. It is about the movement of human beings to do the right thing. Okay? That's all there is to it. We have, by virtue of our creation, and I don't want to argue over who created us. I don't want to argue over how we were created. By virtue of our creation, we are endowed, not because of a document, but because of our natural position in the universe, we are endowed, okay, with the right to be free individuals. This is something.
Whatever created us.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter. You want to talk about, you understand the name, you know the name of the God, you know the God, you know how many gods. I don't care. My point is this. We all, by virtue of our creation, by the fact that we're here, have that right. It's not within the document. The document is the memorialization of those things which should be understood. Bottom line. Okay? So there ends all those arguments. When we're talking about moving forward and trying to do these things, like I said, we're working together. It is a whole lot better to try and work together than to sit here and fight with one another. We fight with one another more often. This is exactly what those who seek to destroy us enjoy. There is no way that we're doing anything but their work for them when we're embattled with one another. So that's why there is cooperation right now. As much as I can possibly encourage personally, I know that, and there are many others that I've spoken to.
Child for that, and I think you embody what the true meaning of what Jesus was trying to say, whether you believe he was just a man, a prophet, or Emmanuel with us. I think a lot of what you have to say is exactly more in line with what many hypocrite Christians have to say. I don't even want to be called a Christian. I made up a word. I call myself a Yeshuan. But I think, like, you're a closet Yeshuan in a way. And, you know, whether you believe he was the embodiment of God or you're just following his principles. It's like love one another, take care of one another. And according to the ancient text, we had a choice that we could do this on our own, or we could allow the men who want to control the world to try to do it for us. And I think that we can see now that that's what the world has done, and look at where we're at right now. So,
right. Let's take a look at the world where we're at. We've talked about what it is we want to do. We've talked about what it is we want to see. We've talked about belief systems. But let's look at the reality for just a second. And by the way, for everybody listening, Chatango chat rooms are available on both American Freedom Radio and Shake and Wake Radio. Listeners in both places, by all means, go back and forth, meet and greet each other, talk to one another. Another thing, we do have open phone lines. That number is 218-339-8525. Okay, if you want to join into this discussion that we're going to have as we go further. The other thing is, if you want to join in via Skype, now, if you're used to Shake and Wake, normally you got to hit up Rick. We know that. But not tonight. You got to be on my Skype list. I know Shaziz is. He wants to join in. Barry Prince might want to join in at some point. You guys are on my Skype list. You can join in that way tonight. Little different just because of the network setup, okay?
Right, but if you're going to call in tonight, you're going to have to call Charles's phone because he's hosting the call tonight.
Barry Prince,
Skype.
the radio star.
And Charles, you want to give the number out one more time?
Absolutely. It's 218-339-8525. Once again, 218-339-8525. Now, as I was saying, when we start to look at the world around us, okay, here's something that, again, we can find a lot of agreement upon. Here's the deal. Is this the kind world? Is this the utopian, and I hate to even use that word because of its true roots, but let's just think about it for a moment. Is this the world that we wish we lived in? No. What we see is that those who rise to power at this point in time are the harshest, are the worst, it seems, are the most devoid of moral character, are the weakest, really, truthfully, in a spiritual sense. They have a selfish and parasitic quality to who they are as beings. This is what prevails on the planet. I mean, you guys, you wouldn't deny that, would you?
Want to rape a child. Let's just pretend there was never a Bible or Jesus Christ. Just for a second, let's just toss that out. How do you feel that children and people are disappearing, and that there is valid information from many people who have given their lives that there is some sort of underground movement, call it satanic or reptilian, of people who are vampires and cannibalists who hate humanity and are stealing people, stealing their lives and their futures, and they get off on murder, torture. That is something we can all unify around. Whether you believe in Jesus Christ, Mickey Mouse, or Alf. You know, I mean, seriously. So long as we're arguing whether Jesus was a prophet, a Messiah, or a myth, we're being divided, and we can't afford to be divided anymore. And this is why Charles and I and Barry and many other people in the movement are trying to do something different and bring us together.
Exactly, because you know what? Whether here we go. We'll give the considerations: myth, Messiah, prophet, teacher, okay, legend. It is all irrelevant. The lesson is still relevant. The lesson is still profound. It is correct, the lesson. Okay? That I'm not going to argue with you about, and nobody should. Anybody who is arguing with you must really appreciate the pollution. Not just the direct acts of murder, but the indirect acts of murder all over this planet. We have littered this planet as a race, as a group, okay, as humanity has gone throughout history. We have littered this planet by war, by punishment, by prisons, by all sorts of systems. Okay, we have absolutely, collectively, we, not you, me, you know what I'm saying, not the people listening to this show, I'm sure, but you know what? We as a...
Can I interrupt?
Yeah.
For 1 second?
Go ahead.
When we say we, no matter where you live in this world, we have people who rule over us that lie to us. And they tell us all the great things they're going to do if we put them in charge. And the illusion of the fact that we even have a voice to put them in charge has really been exposed that, you know, there is a conspiracy, not a theory, but an actual conspiracy to overthrow all governments, and that there is no such thing as an election. And that even if there was, anybody who listened to Confessions of an Economic Hitman, he says he walks into the new leader, whoever it is, and says, hi, you know, in this hand I have a couple $1,000,000, which is your first payment, and in this pocket I have some bullets with your name and your family's names on it, and now you're going to deliver your resources to us, and you're going to go along with whatever we say, or it's going to be the pocket with the bullets in it, or we're going to expose you for the pedophile and the things that we know you're involved in. So that, in other words, if we listen to what ancient text says, whether you believe it's real or not, we, as children of God, as the creation, if we treated each other with love and compassion and took care of one another, there would be no need for governments or police or corruption and the things that we see happening. But when humanity decided to go its own way, we've pretty much, if there is a God, and I believe there is, he said, okay, have it your way. And we're about to see what happens when absolute power corrupts and when people who are of a different nature or a different bloodline or a different, I don't know what to call it, but I've done a lot of research lately, and I think it's quite frightening.
You know what? That's the truth. It doesn't matter what the root of it is. We know that it is not it is not something that belongs here. Okay, it's just that simple. It's not something that we're born with. It's something that we're born into, but not born with. With that, I also want to mention that we're also being carried live on Real Truth Media Network as well. So actually, there's a third network added to this live simulcast, and
wow.
Our friend Shaziz has joined us here right now, and I think he has something he wants to add to the conversation.
How you guys doing?
All right, sir.
Well, I don't know if he mentioned, but we lost one of our network owners over there at Awake Radios. What I understand from everything I've seen today, he's been going through some bad health. His name is Steve, Granada Steve is what I called him all the time. That's what his Skype handle was. But these networks that you're talking about, this is what me and Steve's been doing for a long time. I got ShazizRadio.com, and he has AwakeRadio.uk and .us and
right. And the reason I would just like to interrupt, the reason we became a network is because of working with you and Steve and everything. And the division because of Christian beliefs or because of,
well,
Steve,
and I'd kind of like to
views, but I would like to say that I just walked in the house. Annie had been plastering this banner that we made about tonight all over the place, and I had gone to the store to grab some food and wine and for tonight because I knew tonight was going to be special. And I walked in, and there was a message from Shaziz saying that Steve has crossed over, and it just floored me. Okay, it's like, wow. Even though we had our differences and beliefs,
well, I'd like to kind of go back to something Charles had mentioned about, all of our differences and stuff. We're never going to get everybody to agree on everything under the sun, but what we can agree is that, our world is in a jam, and we got to gather together to fix this. I've been doing radio on the internet here for quite some time, going way back to TNS radio and then MSI radio and Shaziz radio and the Wake radio, and we're affiliated with multiple other networks that rebroadcast our stream, and we do the same for them. And it's about getting the message out, folks. It doesn't matter what brand name you put on it, but all these small networks together, you got power. I keep saying this, that people are more powerful than they can possibly imagine. Our Creator didn't make no trash. He gave you the power of the spoken word. He gave you the power of the pen. He gave you the power of your actions. And if you take any of those, it's just throwing tiny ripples into the pond, and you get up every morning, you get to choose whether or not those ripples that you're going to put out there into the pond are going to be good ones or they're going to be bad ones. That's the battle between good and evil that we all face on a daily basis. But we got to come together, and we got to keep strong. We got to watch each other's backs. We don't have to agree on everything, but to point out the good, positive information to people out there, we got to talk about the bad things as well as the good things. But to try to, when I talk about how powerful the spoken word is, you can literally, with your voice and the words coming out of your mouth, you can raise people up to the highest points of heaven, or you can lower their self-esteem down to the lowest depths of hell. That's a lot of power, and those individuals out there that we call our rulers or our elite or, our representatives, their track record stinks. They're not doing a good job. If they were doing a good job, then the people wouldn't be frustrated enough to start multiple networks. And when our network started having problems, you know what happened? They branched off, and there was more networks, and then yet even more networks and more, and it's been growing. The alternative media has been growing by leaps and bounds. I could sit down here and I could.
What, the liars?
Yeah, I could sit down here and quote you some numbers.
What I hear in you and what I think needs to be voiced is humility. Humility. In other words, if somebody, including new people coming into this who don't realize how horrific it is, okay, because what we talk about and a lot of the stuff we put out on our network is about Satanism and about abduction of children and all of that evil stuff. I mean, seriously, we all love our children, do we not? Whether you're an atheist, a Christian, an agnostic, a Buddhist, do you like the idea that there are certain people with no empathy who get off on murdering children and drinking blood or cannibalism? And this is the hard reality that people really need to wake up to. And the only way we can possibly do that is to come together and to understand and express our own humility, not to be, I'm right, you're wrong, screw you. You know what? We have a difference. To hell with you. I'm never having you on my network again, and we're going to go our own different ways, because then we're divided and conquered in that way. Humility. Go ahead, Shaziz.
Well, basically what I'm trying to point out to everybody out there is that as bad as this world is, you know, I believe our Creator's got things under control. We're going to see things get a lot worse than what they are. Things always seem to get worse before they get better. But if you think about this and you think about it with truth in your heart, you'll know that if you know your neighbor, if you're prepared for any such emergency to take care of your own family and to take care of your friends and strangers, this whole system could collapse and we could survive. We'd be just fine. But the average Joe out there...
You love yourself. But the world we were born into says you should have a swimming pool like your neighbor. You should have a nice car or a better house. Or,
yeah, but you know how I feel about all that stuff, man. I couldn't care less about money. You know, the true gold is in the friendship.
The world is hypnotized, Shaziz. It's hypnotized to covet. And
well, by definition, Rick, by definition, your Shake and Wake Radio Network logo, by definition, you're trying to shake those ones that are asleep up, okay? And that's what all these other networks are out there doing. They're informing people out there of things that's going on in the government, things that's going on in, you know, life in general or whatever. You know, this, for the most part, I don't see the alternative media being a fear-monger campaign to try to scare people into getting, you know, view counts and all that kind of stuff. I actually see it more along the line of, hold on a second, I see it more along the line of individuals out there who have huge hearts and they really give a damn about, you know, the paving stones that they lay down for our children to walk into the future. I honestly believe there is a lot of good people. The majority of the people out there are good. And when you can't get to another part of the country, you can at least raise your voice and make them aware on that other side of what's going on and make them aware on this side what's going on. You see what I'm trying to say here, man?
You know what? I see what you're saying, and I'll tell you something. Here is the codifying point as far as I'm concerned. All right. There are alternative media people, allegedly alternative media people, that do take a lot of time to crank up fear porn, that do pump that kind of stuff out there. Be nervous, have yourself a good anxiety attack, okay? Do that, they yell at you, they scream at you, they try and make you fear a lot of things, okay? That is a reality. There are plenty of them out there, all right? But the people that you're listening to, obviously, are honest people. That's what's happening. There's actually a lot of what I call honest media, because I don't like the alternative thing. Truth, listen, we all have different versions of the truth in some cases. So truth media is a little difficult to sort of place it, you know, in one basket and call it truth media. If it's honest media, it's our honest attempt to decode the world around us. It's our honest attempt to relate the reality that we find ourselves in, whatever that may be, from whichever angle we're coming from, right? And another thing that you said that I want to make sure I get to, and then I'll shut up. I know I like to run my mouth, but, you know, hey, it is partially my show now, too, so. But the thing is.
What, Charles, the fact that you love to run your mouth, that's what tells me you're in the book of life, whether people believe there is one or not. You wouldn't be awake listening to us tonight if you weren't concerned and you weren't willing to stand up, because we know we're all being targeted, and whether people believe in the Bible or whatever they believe, this New World Order has admitted they've got guillotines, they've got camps. If you will not bow to Lucifer, whether you think it's religious or not, to them it is. They're sacrificing children and people to their God. And we've heard the God who rules this planet is Lucifer or Satan. So the fact that you want to run your mouth and that you are speaking the truth and the things that I've heard from you, I don't want to call you a Christian because I don't want to call myself a Christian.
Thank you.
Like I said, I believe in the statements of Yeshua. And I do believe that if there was ever a being who inhabited the wisdom of God or was God with us, that the things that he told us that we shouldn't do and that we should love one another as ourselves and we should take care of one another, I think it's been co-opted, hijacked.
No, absolutely right. But here's the thing, and here's one of the lessons that I try to. I beg people to try and take this into their minds, take it into their consideration. It's something Shaziz touched on, and sometimes, Rick, I got to tell you, I mean, you know, I love you guys, but sometimes I hear that focus on the negative. I really do, coming from you, and I know it's hard because the world has a very negative atmosphere to it. It's choking. It's suffocating. It can do that to you if you're trying to truly breathe, right? But here's the thing. We got to remember that if you look at those texts, all of the ancient texts, in fact, you'll find that the words you speak and the things that you put out to others to hear have some very significant meaning, okay? You have the ability to affect change by your words. You really do. Not just in a, listen, I can plant ideas in people's minds, but literally in a spiritual sense. If you take a look at some of those very deep conversations.
There is God who spoke the world into existence, and well, then that just shows you how powerful words are.
There you are, right?
Well, in my good book in Genesis, it said that God created man in his own image, which makes us creators. We create our own pain, our own suffering, our own destiny, our own wars.
Yes, sir.
We made this mess, folks. We got to clean it up. We made it by consent because we allowed these individuals that we called representatives to run unchecked. They do what they do because we allow it,
Hey, I just wanted to say that. The reason we run documentaries about Satanism, about vaccines, about big pharma, about Satanism in Hollywood and how we're being made to idolize and all these things. Walter Weiss, all of this stuff is to show or expose the evil so for the newbies coming in can see that we really have to unite, no matter what you believe.
Well, right. Right.
Hey, Rick,
right.
Can I ask you a question?
Hang on a second. But here's the thing, okay? And I want to ask you both and everybody listening to open your minds to one thing. We have not only been mind controlled by the media and by the things that were the precursors to the media, by the flow of information which was disseminated in a mechanized fashion. That's not the only way that we've been manipulated. The actual language we use at this point has many a hidden bit of what can we say here? See, I want to be careful because I don't want to offend anybody.
Charles,
yeah.
You were talking to the guest you had the other day, a brother who is a pastor or preacher or whatever, and the meanings of biblical or Enoch or different texts, the words, if you don't understand the words, like let's just take the words sodomy, faggot, and gay. Look at how it is changed. Or so many different words. If you don't understand what the words are, like anyone out there who thinks that Eve ate from a tree, she took a bite into an apple and then handed it to Adam, and that's what caused the fall of mankind, if you even believe that took place, I would just like to say I've done some heavy research on the reptilian factor, the underground bases, on the biblical text, and on Enoch. The words were changed through Hebrew and Greek and all this stuff. What really took place, if it did, and I believe it did, is that this serpent being beguiled Eve. He seduced her. So what we had happen was a bloodline of Cain and a bloodline of Abel. In other words, if there's truth to this, what we're talking about is one bloodline that would deliver Abraham and David and Jesus Christ, and the other one is purely of Satan, literally. In other words, they throw things at you as though it's myths or fantasy, like Hansel and Gretel or monsters. But guess what? The monsters are real. Dracula, the Dracos underground, it is, the more you look into this, the more you're either gonna embrace who you are as a child of God in the creation, or you're gonna be so petrified. And I believe Jesus said that when these end times come and certain things are revealed, men's hearts will fail them from the fear, because it's not above that we're going to see flying reptilians and all types of things that will just melt your heart. Like, I mean, it is off the charts, so incredibly horrific that most people would not even believe it.
Look, I understand what you're saying, Rick. I do, but I think you missed part of the point of what I was saying. One can invoke many a thing by the words they speak, okay? Forget about whichever thing you believe happened in the past. I'm talking about today as we speak, as we are making the efforts that we're making, as anybody does anything in their lives. The way that they behave, the way that they speak, the words they choose to use, okay, the methods of communication by which someone participates in this world have an influence over it. This is something that, like I said, no matter what sort of teaching you believe in a spiritual sense, has some sort of relevance to this discussion, okay? So what I say is, you don't speak with fear so that you don't invoke fear. Okay, I don't believe in it personally. I think that fear is one of the most useless base things that I just have no use for whatsoever. So I refuse to participate in it at every turn that I possibly can. I refuse to participate in fear. I refuse to participate in anger as best I can, because wrath or to evoke rage on this world is something that I don't want to see. You see, so if I don't want to see it and I don't want to do it and I don't participate in it and I can encourage others to do that, what happens? What happens? Forget about which stories we're talking about. Forget about whose bloodline is whose. What happens if you remove things like fear, anger, jealousy, all of those? Well, gee, they almost sound like I'm starting to name the 7 deadly sins, don't they?
Yeah, they're all wasted emotions, and I don't live in fear, not at all. Not at all.
That's right. You see what I'm saying?
We don't expose what we expose on this network out of fear. What we're trying to get people to see is that we have a common enemy, and that whatever this enemy is, which I believe it's satanic from their own words, Luciferian, they're different from us, whether you're an atheist or a Christian. A true believer in Jesus is, because I really don't like the word Christian. I think most Christians are hypocrites. I can tell you right now, I've been a hypocrite many times. Many times. I'm totally admitting that I don't believe anybody on this planet has followed the rules that were made to keep us safe and keep us from going down this road. And that if we did, we wouldn't need government's the police. I was driving down the street tonight after I made that banner and delivered it to you so we could all promote this show.
Right.
And as I was driving down the street, I was thinking about the yellow line in between us and the red lights. And I was thinking, like, you know, most people don't cross and drive on the wrong side of the highway or the wrong side of the road. Most people, when they come up to a stop sign, they stop because they don't want to crash into someone or hurt somebody else. So we know the reason why there would be, let's say, laws or things put in place to stop us from ending our lives short or destroying us because we were stupid. You know, we made mistakes. And even the whole thing about, somebody, I forgot who it was, said in the old days, you'd see a yellow light and you'd floor it. You know? Right? But now there's cameras up there, so people think twice because somebody's watching. You might get a ticket.
Well, just flip off the red light cams. That's what I do.
Well, I tell you what, to me, see, that's why I go back to the point of personal responsibility, because to me it doesn't matter. Either I'm going to behave in a safe way or I'm not. I don't care who's watching. I don't care what the effect is, because I know that my action in and of itself has an effect. And if you guys can hear that train going on,
Amen, brother.
That's all there is to it, right?
I'm responsible for my actions. You're responsible for your actions. And if everybody could get that through their head, then this would be a whole lot better world.
Yes, sir.
Rick's responsible for my actions. I'm not taking any responsibility. I'm going to blame it all on Rick.
That's all right.
Well, listen, now, if you're married, whether it's common law or whatever, you know what? Two become one, and therefore he gets known half of the blame. All right, so Barry Prince has joined us, the radio star, Barry Prince.
St. Barry of Canada.
Radio star.
St. Barry of Canada, as we call them.
The true radio star, host of The Big Puzzle, Barry Prince.
Who are you guys talking about now? I'm leaving. I can't take this, man. Radio star. Why do you call me radio star? I'm just I told you, Chuck, I'm just an old hippie up here in northern D.C. watching the world go crazy and trying to make some sense out of it.
Because I resented you calling me a rock star one time, so now I'm just going to call you that from now on.
No, you look like more like a Morpheus type guy, man. I was looking at your updated picture there on Facebook, and I tell you, man, you could be selling life insurance policies in the inner city, no problem.
Yeah, who says I didn't?
But we know he's not that type, you know. He's a scary looking dude, isn't he?
Yeah, he is a scary looking dude. Wow, is that Chuck? Holy smokes.
Hey,
anyways, it's all good. It's all good.
It's okay. I used to be the small bouncer in the clubs, you know. I was the guy who would talk to them calmly with the bigger guys behind me. So...
Would you mind if I go biblical for a minute? I know it's not a favorite thing for people to learn, but I got a good point about what I'm trying to say here.
Listen, I've read the Bible in 3 different languages, cover to cover. I've studied it for several years just as a matter of my own spiritual journey among other texts. It is nothing that's going to offend me, brother. Go ahead.
All right. Well, basically what I wanted to point out, when the Bible talked about the 12 tribes of Israel being scattered throughout the entire land and their tongues being scattered, you know, basically they would all have separate languages and wouldn't be able to understand each other. But what I would also like to point out is that every single individual out there listening to these radio shows, each and every one of you have a gift or a talent of some sort. Some of you can cook, some of you can't. Some of you can play guitar, some of you can sing. You know, there's good carpenters out there, electricians of every single trade that you can possibly think about out there. You know, there's artists, you know, some people are multi-talented, but the fact of the matter is that each one of these people out there are pieces of the puzzle, right? And a house doesn't get built just by an electrician. It doesn't get built just by a plumber. You know, you gather up this dream team, so to speak, and you bring them all together with all their skill sets and their talents. and you build a beautiful house together. You create a work of art, and you got a chef there to cook for you, and a singer maybe to sing, you know. And I got a call here. Can I hold that thought?
Sure, go ahead. Barry, you want to take over for Shaz?
Well, no, I'm going to let him finish his thought there because I was just listening. I mean, I can't carry on his thought, but
so if you want to elaborate on what he's saying, the bottom line is if we all took care of one another, there would be no need for governments, police, armies, or wars. We trusted the wrong people. And what's about to take place is because we trusted the wrong people.
Apologize for that. It was my wife. She making a trip out to care for her parents that are not doing so well, and so I have her call me and let me know she made it there all right. It's a long trip.
Would you agree while you were taking that call? I said, if we all loved our neighbors as we love ourselves and took care of one another when they were in times of distress.
Well, that's kind of the point that I was trying to get to.
We wouldn't need armies, police, or governments, and this could have never taken place to the point where we're at now, where we have a purely evil establishment that wants to globalize itself and has an advantage over us, to where they have a plan to kill 89% of us.
But Rick, what I'm trying to point out to you is that we, the people, have the power to fight against that. I don't believe any creator put us down here for to lay down and die to evil. We were given gifts and talents. See, there was one little key thing about the whole spreading the tongues clear across, scattering them out throughout all the nations, and scattering out all the talents and gifts. If we realized that I can't do this without Barry or Charles or Annie or Rick, I can't do this by myself. I'm just one man. I'm just a human being. But with my talents and your talents and all of our gifts together, throughout all these networks, we reach a lot of people. We reach a lot of minds, a lot of hearts. And if we're powerful with the words that we use, and we use them responsibly and respectfully, and we bring all these dream teams together in our local communities, our states, our countries, you know, I've met people, beautiful people from all over the world. I got friends in every single nation out there. And these folks, they're brilliant. They're brilliant researchers. They're awesome friends. The ones who aren't scientific, they still hang out with me. They got things to teach me all day long, you know, and I try to teach them things. This is what it's all about. Bringing these people to the table, bringing these brilliant minds to the table to get the things resolved in this world that need to be resolved. There ain't no energy crisis out there. There never was an energy crisis. We've got everything we need to solve the whole energy thing. We have a pollution crisis out there.
They control the media and they control everything. So we
not
need
anymore, Rick. They don't. Not anymore. We're on the radio right now. We're talking to a lot of people, and I don't know if your network or any of these other networks really realize what's going on behind the scenes. But you got people listening in on mobile devices all over. Some of those numbers don't even show up on your scoreboard. But you would be surprised at how many people. You would be surprised at how many people are actually listening to what you and I are saying right now. I've been trying to point this out to people for a long time. You know, it's not about the numbers, but it is when you throw that positive ripple out there in the pond. And people want to hear what you got to say. They're going to keep coming back. They're going to keep coming back. And they got those pieces of the puzzle that we're all missing. You know,
that's right. That's
you got a
Yeah,
500
absolutely right.
Absolutely.
puzzle.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You know, Shaziz, you know what? You hit upon an incredible point. Right now, we have
Yep, he
no
did.
idea exactly how far our voices are traveling. I know that the numbers that we see, which are not bad in some cases, are nothing compared to the reach that this actually has. And that's something to keep in mind. That's a very positive thought, and I really, really love you for bringing that up, man, because I know for a fact that there are people that tune into my show just through TuneIn. Okay. What do we see for numbers as far as the kickback on it? One person. I personally talked to, a couple dozen that use that app, and I know there's more.
Can I explain that a lot of people, because of smartphones, when they come to a website to listen to a show like ours or yours or Shaziz's, they come and they click on something like TuneIn or the Windows Media or whatever manner they prefer to listen to. And the phone captures the Shoutcast address. So they don't have to come to the website or be a member in the chat. When you're live on air, they can just click that into their favorites and they'd be listening. But the numbers that show up in the chat room or on the website hits is dwarfed by the amount of people now who use smartphones or tablets. So people ask me, what are your numbers? And you know what I tell them? I don't know. I really don't know, and I don't care. But what I do know is that the people who come in and do talk in the chat, who are not afraid to just log in as an anon or with a name or whatever, they like what they're hearing and they come back. And the fact that we're reaching people, that's all that matters. Because whether we're reaching 2,000 or 200,000, we're doing our job.
I have a question for Chuck.
Sure.
You have a Facebook group, right?
Yep.
Do you notice that they actually play with the numbers? They make it like you get less hit time while you're posting than actually what people are seeing. Do you get that as well?
Oh yeah, all the time. All the time. Again, like I said, I personally interact with people that tell me they see things or they heard things more than what sometimes I'm seeing for numbers. When it comes to any of this stuff, Google, Facebook, all of them do the same thing. Listen, guys, we're just about to get up against my break. All right, so a hard break will happen on American Freedom Radio. We'll go to commercial. We're going to continue the conversation, though, open mic on Shake and Wake, so it'll be sort of like the Ochelli Effect show backstage during the break over on Shake and Wake Radio, so that's going to happen. So in just a very short time here, you're going to hear my music kick in. But in case you just tuned in, Rick and Annie from Shake and Wake Radio, along with Shaziz, who is just this guy I've run across. I don't know him real well, but every time I hear him, I hear something great come out of his mouth. I've seen him.
Has his own radio network as well.
And he has his own radio network. And, of course, the radio star, Barry Prince, is with us once again. But
St. Barry.
St. Barry, host of The Big Puzzle, which is on Shake and Wake Radio. But anyway, this is the Ochelli Effect on American Freedom Radio, and if you're listening to AFR, we'll be right back after these messages. If you're listening to Shake and Wake, you can continue to hear the conversation in between, but we'll be right back.
Alternative. Chuck Ochelli.
And the second hour of this very odd simulcast on the Ochelli Effect is still continuing. By the way, a special thanks to Renegade Smith, who was actually the guy who wrote the Ochelli Effect theme song and performed, recorded, and handed it over to me as a contribution to the show. I always appreciate that music and don't often enough mention that he's the man who provided it to me. He's over at Infinite Source Broadcasting and sometimes also carries bits and shows that I do as well. So, in case you're just tuning in, we have a simulcast going on a few different networks, actually. Shake and Wake at shakeandwakeradio.com. We have Annie and Rick. I'm going to go backwards on that one. Annie and Rick with us. And, of course, Shaziz, who's just a cool guy. And, obviously, best for last, the radio star, Barry Prince, host of the
St. Barry. St. Barry from Canada.
St. Barry from Canada.
There you go, Barry.
I will teach you to call me a rock star, sir.
Okay. Well, look, we're gonna have to smoke the peace pipe here, Charles.
All right. Well, let's do that. But first, you know what? We actually have a caller, which, by the way, the phone lines are open at 218-339-8525. That's 218-339-8525. And I want to bring in the caller who has been patiently waiting because, you know what? I sort of ignored the board for a little bit. So, but if you want to join in, feel free to do so as well. And you are on the air with the simulcast across various networks. How you doing?
Pretty good. How you doing?
All right. So what would you like to add to the conversation?
Well, I just want to let you know I ain't got no internet. And I ain't got I just got this phone. And you guys are hitting a home run. Everybody's out there. More and more people are hearing, like you're saying, you got to keep getting them messages out to everybody, and and it's, I don't know, positive, negative, I don't know, whatever. They say sometimes negative's better than positive, and positive's better than negative. I don't know which way to go, but you guys are getting out to people, and I just want to say I appreciate everything all you guys are doing. So keep the good work going.
All right.
God bless. Thank you.
Thanks for the call.
Yes, thank you, brother. You know what?
Tell everybody about AFR and Shaziz and ShakeandWakeRadio.com and
I'm gonna put the caller.
That guy just said.
I'm going to put this caller back on hold just for a second because he was saying that he doesn't have his internet right now, so he might be listening through the phone. AFR also has a phone number. I can't ever remember it off the top of my head, but we have a phone number where you can just listen to it through a phone if you don't have internet, if you find yourself without it at some point. There are various ways that we are getting out there without use of the great corporate giants, which are bought and paid for and are lying to you and deceiving you on a daily basis. Okay, so believe it, take a look, examine the websites, go to them when you can, call in, participate, get your voice out, and take a listen to what's being offered on these networks. Shake and Wake Radio at shakeandwakeradio.com. Of course, look up The Big Puzzle, the radio star Barry Prince, and Shaziz Radio. And, of course, the network which I am proudly a part of, which is American Freedom Radio at AmericanFreedomRadio.com. And Real Truth Media is broadcasting us live at the moment, so hello to you guys also, and thank you for listening and for participating as well. And anybody who goes over to Ochelli.com, which is my own personal site, there is also a live stream there. You ever have trouble with your player or something, guess what? I got a player right there on the front page, which blasts AFR 24 hours a day. But it is one of those things where we're all trying to work together. And like I said, if you want to join in on the conversation, by all means, hit me up with a text message on Skype if you're on my Skype list. If not, and you want to join in, I'll tell you what. My Skype name is Charles.Ochelli, which is why everybody keeps calling me Charles, even though I prefer to be called Chuck. Charles.Ochelli, and I'm the guy. It says I'm in Greenville, North Carolina. It's close to where I am, but that's not exactly where I am.
Don't feel bad. Call me Richard.
Richard. As long as they're not calling you Dick, it's okay. Tricky Dick Nixon. You know what I'm saying. I didn't say anything dirty. I just said, okay.
Hey, I can be a dick at times. Seriously.
Yeah, really, I know.
I get.
We all have our dick moments, okay?
Listen, so can I, and the only thing that matters, and the only thing that matters about being a dick is as long as you are good at it, and you can be proud of it, then you should own it. Okay, sorry, I had to throw that in.
No, but I mean, the reason I would be a dick or break my own rules about profanity now and then or just be upset is because I care about people. I care about children. And the evil we're up against is so unbelievable that most people can't even fathom it. Anybody want to talk about that for a little bit? We really didn't cover that part of it. But like when you're trying to wake people up, and then I'm going to toss it over to everybody who's on this call, including the owner of, or the founder of American Freedom Radio. I'd like to hear from him too. We know about a government that is involved in pedophilia and drug trafficking and human sacrifice, and that a Luciferian one world beast system. If the God I believe in is real, I believe these people are proving it. We're talking about evil unlike anything we've ever seen. Go ahead. Anybody want to jump in?
What I would add to that is when you start seeing the Pope on the front page of Time magazine calling for a new world order to combat global warming, you know it's getting close. What we're seeing right now, guys, is a real yearning in the world for knowledge. Like you said, we reiterate on this many times that people are really, really starting to wake up to what is going on and how badly we have been duped as a human race and how we've been used as pawns in this big game. And people are really waking up to that. I see it in my own community, man. I today after hockey, I'm only going to talk for a minute, but this is something that really it made me feel kind of like we're actually starting to make progress, because after hockey today, I was sitting in the dressing room and there's a couple 18 and 20-year-old guys in there that are playing junior, and one of them's home from school, and a bunch of young guys in there. We got into a conversation, and for about 20 minutes, I really, really kind of just made some points to these guys about things that are going on around them. And, you know, it does have an impact. Some of these guys are listening to me, and they're going on the internet and they're starting to do research. One piped in today about 9/11. He says he was on that site and watched it for 4 hours, and he says he never, ever, ever had any idea that it was what it is. So we are having an impact every time we get on these shows. You know, my day is good, guys, if I reach one person. If I can reach one person in my day and influence the way they're thinking and get them to have a look at what's going on around them, that's a very, very good day in my life. So whether it's one person or 50 people or 100 people, it makes no difference to me. It's just we need to keep talking. We need to do these shows, because what we're doing here tonight is great. We're bringing a whole pile of people together. I'm looking at the chat rooms in both at AFR and over here in Shake and Wake, and people are really enjoying this interaction we're having between us. So let's make a regular point of doing this, guys. Maybe once a week.
You know what? It sounds like a good thing. We might do it once a month. You know, that number I was talking about before, by the way, is 605-562-5173. Okay. Once again, it's 605-562-5173. That's the number if you just wanted to listen and you don't even have internet work, and you can do that on a regular phone to AFR. So I wanted to clear that up because I hate not having that information off the top of my head. But back to it, yeah, this is exactly what needs to be done. And you know, hey, look, let's kick a few things around too while we're here, because we've done a little bit of, you know, discussing why it's great to come together and have this discussion, and I appreciate it. And we've talked about the overarching evil system on the planet, and we describe it in a lot of different ways. We talk about the different motives for it and everything else. But I always like to talk about what can we do about what we're confronted by, you know. Solutions, you know, and of course one of the greatest solutions in my estimation is non-participation. You refuse to contribute to the thing which is poisoning you, you know, and that is the essence of the media that I feel I'm participating in, is as best I can, I will make sure not to bring people information that is poisonous to them. I don't want anything injected into my son's body because I don't think that injection is the proper way to introduce anything to him. Just like I don't want to eat things that don't appear to be food. Thank you very much. Chemicals that you don't even
like
know the name of.
noodles? That's all we're going to have to eat soon,
Yeah, well, there you go, right? I don't like that. I don't appreciate all of the added toxins to the water. I don't appreciate the stuff they're spraying over my head. I don't appreciate every time somebody speaks up and says something like, hey, maybe we should get along and consider the fact that we're all breathing the same air, or that maybe mankind should put an end to war before war puts an end to mankind. We put a bullet in their head. I'm getting real tired of watching history repeat itself. So this is why I'm compelled to speak. And I say that if we speak as positively and as affirmatively in every action, in every statement we make, in every level of participation that we can possibly imagine in our minds, this is the way to change things. Okay, if you think you're going to win a war, and I say this and I get in trouble all the time and I don't care, and you guys can jump all over me after I say it. I'll tell you what, if you think that because you've got a shotgun and you've got a cache of weapons, if you think you've got enough ammunition to take on the ills and the evils that are in this world, I wish you luck. But it ain't going to work. Okay, this will not be the revolution by the barrel of a gun. That time is over. All right? It's not to say that there won't be a time to utilize that particular tool. Didn't say that. What I'm saying is if you're spoiling for it, then you're giving them what they want. What cannot be reversed is if we change ourselves. If we change ourselves, we don't be part of the herd mentality, and we make a lot more sense out of things in a moral fashion. If we actually behave the way we want to see others behave, if we actually treat people who require our help, if we treat people that don't require our help with decency and respect to begin with, each day you have another victory. Each day is a victory if you do that. And that's it. I'm all done, and you guys can either jump on me for what I just said or whatever. Go ahead.
I totally agree. Kindness and forgiveness is important.
Go a long way.
We all, none of us, I don't know anybody. In fact, the biggest believers in that we are a creation of a higher creator, most of the biggest voices out there are people who were non-believers or people who were turned off by modern religion. People, who through their daily lives seriously, everything is sold with sex. Everything. Sex, pharmaceuticals, music, covetousness. The Grand Illusion by Styx, that song. So if you think your life is complete confusion because your neighbor's got it made, just remember it's a grand illusion, and deep inside we're all the same. And I could have sang that, but I just said it because I didn't want to sound like I was showboating, but it says so much. The guest you had on the other day, he's the founder of a website called hisholychurch.org. And it was one of the best interviews I've ever heard you do, Charles. And I don't want to push something on you, but I really think that that all of us are changing and coming into a new situation.
Yeah. Wait till you hear the next interview. It's going to be, we're actually going to do a series, and I'm looking very, very forward to it. And you're talking about Brother Gregory Williams. Yep. And I suggest you take a look at his books, Rick. I really do. The Covenant of the Gods is the first one that I started wrapping my mind around. But you take a look at the way this man breaks down the monetary system, the manipulation on a spiritual level. You don't require the belief in Catholicism. You don't require the belief in Christianity to recognize the truth of what the situation is. And that's what the beauty is there. See, to me, all of these religions, in fact, are splinters of a similar truth. Yes, they've been warped and they've been twisted. Right, but that's
control.
That's the form of control. But here's the thing. They are all splintered from a universal truth. There is such a thing as universal truth.
That's right. And we're not to be divided is what Jesus and the original apostles said. Yeah, isn't that exactly what has happened? Even amongst those who call themselves Christians, you've got many sects, and I don't mean sex like SDX. I mean SECTX, CTS, sex, that are dividing us, and a lot of them can be traced back to Freemasonry and Luciferianism. When it comes to Mormon and Jehovah Witnesses and even the Catholic Church. So let me get this straight. The Catholic Church, or so many members of this so-called religion preaching the word of Jesus Christ, is not giving us the truth. And we know of things like John Todd Collins, the late John Todd Collins, who spoke out, who left his Illuminati family, whether you believe that or not, that they took over religion as well. And they're also taking over the internet, and they're also taking over the Patriot movement. So you really got to look at some people out there in the Patriot movement that are trying to legitimize or to basically say, listen, I have done research for 30 years, and I'm telling you it's all bull. There is no God, and your prayers don't matter. Well, you know what? I also know people like Russ Dizdar and L.A. Marzulli and Fritz Springmeier and many, 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 many people in the movement that can confirm all these ancient texts to show you that a demonic force has been at work since the beginning of mankind, since the beginning of man. If you believe that we are created, or even if you don't, let's say you don't believe we were created by the Creator, I will tell you this. Just take a look at the New World Order and what they intend to do, what they get off on, the evil involved. So whether you believe Jesus was a prophet or God manifested amongst us who rose from the dead and is our salvation, at least you can look around and see that what is in control right now is pure evil if it would tell you that they would put you in jail for feeding a homeless person, or that speaking up for the truth or the Constitution or your God-given unalienable rights makes you a terrorist where you have no rights and they're going to torture you. They're going to arrest you. I really think the New World Order is the best convincer that there is a good and an evil and a God and a devil, because they clearly say who they work for. Anybody want to jump in?
Well, yeah, you know what? I will, because I'll tell you something. I don't feel as though everybody says who they clearly work for. Okay, because there are a lot of people who visit a whole lot of suffering upon this world that call themselves Christians. There are a whole lot of people who visit a lot of suffering on this world that call themselves all sorts of whatever. I don't even care. Jews, Muslims, Buddhists. It doesn't matter.
Let me just interrupt you and say the people that would call themselves Christians or pastors that are involved in the council of churches, involved in the secret Luciferian plot to cause a one world government and kill humanity and destroy it all because they hate. Those people aren't real to begin with. The people who killed off the Indians and all the awful things done in the name of Christianity, it is, it's a mockery of what Jesus Christ or what the Creator is about. So we know them by their fruits, and they're really showing their ass right now. And that's what I was trying to say.
Oh, yeah, but the thing is that there's so much in this world that's mislabeled. They don't necessarily represent themselves. Quite often, it is the man that'll slay you who will call you friend. Okay, and you need to be cautious, you need to be careful, but not to live in fear. That's the thing. I absolutely don't participate in this idea, and I don't surrender, by the way. I don't surrender whatever part of this world that I occupy and that I have any influence upon. I refuse to surrender it to darkness alone. And it's just that simple. Okay, and it doesn't matter how anything is labeled. Everything in this world, it seems to me, is mislabeled, in fact.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so labels are irrelevant. Yeah, go ahead.
We are all living in a world that when you drive down the street or walk in the store, the products, the logos, all you got to do is just begin that trip down the rabbit hole and start watching all of the great YouTube videos exposing this stuff to see what we're talking about. And it involves the church, and it involves people that are going to say the Bible is a myth and Jesus is a myth and it's all bull. But you know what? What I'm trying to say is, it doesn't matter. It's right in front of your face. When you really take a look at it, it's so in front of your face, and it is evil. Yep. So if you want to bomb it because of what you've seen preachers or the Catholic Church or the Mormons or the
list is endless, but we know what we're talking about. Yeah,
right. Almost. You know what? Then I agree with you. I
Absolutely.
agree with you as a believer that Yeshua was the one being who was the embodiment of God trying to tell us what's about to take place, and that we have power as great as Him. So I do believe that we are God because God is within us. But I don't believe that what the New Age movement leaving God out of it is trying to say. In other words, you have to, we have the essence of Him within us, but that's all through the fact of that we love one another and that we forgive one another.
Well, look, I want to
have a big problem with forgiving people who would abduct other people's children, cause such suffering, because there's a suffering that takes place on any night when a ritual sacrifice and the stabbing and eating of organs and sick stuff that I can't even talk about on the radio. But we have played some confessions of former Satanists.
But you know what, Rick? The thing is, and here's where I have to stop you. And you know why? Because those acts that you're talking about, to me, honestly, pale in comparison to those that knowingly poison and destroy millions, to those that knowingly commit genocides.
Or not. You remember that statement?
I'm just saying, all of it together.
You just used a phrase, and the reason I'm interrupting is this, because it's really important. And it's out of Pulp Fiction, but it's been changed slightly, but I will strike down upon those who poison and destroy my brothers or my children.
That's right.
And that's what they're doing. They poison our minds. They've made us lustful. They've made us seek.
Let me say something here. I just
want to point
out,
Shaziz, please, yeah.
I just want to point out we are by no means helpless, and that's one of the greatest things that the dark side ever got over on everybody, is to get them to the point where they feel like we're helpless. If you look through that Bible, whether you agree or don't agree, there's a story in there that talks about David killing Goliath. This guy's like, he's standing there with a slingshot against a giant, right? Well, even if that story was just a moral of what we could actually accomplish in life, if we had faith in not only our Creator, but if we had faith in ourselves, people, you are stronger than you can possibly imagine. You have the power of the spoken word. You have the power of the pen. You have the power of your actions. The things that you do and say in your life are more powerful than you can possibly imagine. Mm-hmm. One voice shouting out there, they say the squeakiest wheel gets the grease, I'm going to be that squeaky wheel. I don't care if I get greased. But I'm going to be that squeaky wheel, because as long as I'm shouting it from the mountain, somebody on the other side is going to hear me. They're going to start shouting back. They're going to start shouting out there. They're going to spread that message as far and wide as they can possibly do it. This is where our power really lies.
Yes,
it ain't with the governments. Forget the governments. Their track record stinks. But if you can talk to your neighbor respectfully, and you can teach your neighbor something, and you can show your neighbor how to feed himself, when times get rough, your neighbor's not going to come over and try to rob you, And if something bad's going down, you go stand with your neighbor. You have your community stand with your neighbor. We can stand against these folks, and we don't even have to be violent to do it, What I'm trying to point out to everybody out there, I know the world's terrible. I've seen things that no man or woman should ever have to see. Mm-hmm. Things that I can't even contemplate on trying to explain to people listening to my voice. Terrible things. But I realized something in that whole entire deal. This world is messed up. It is really seriously messed up, and the only ones who can fix it is us. When we get up off the couch, when we get out there in our communities, if you're talking about the world being messed up, and you're out there and your own yard's messed up, you got to clean your yard first and then work your way out.
Yes, sir.
It's like standing out there protesting Save the Trees. You got a wooden sign and wooden stick with a paper sign on it and says Save the Trees. Why are you doing that? Why aren't you out there planting a tree, for Pete's sake? You see what I'm saying, folks?
Yes.
Common sense. What we have in this world is a common sense crisis. We don't, all the rest of it is all made up stuff to make everybody feel like there's a boogeyman behind every single door. We know there's a power of darkness out there, and it's coming to get us. It's coming to get us all. It's not target specific, and it don't matter whether you're a Christian or Jew, an atheist or whatever. There will be no winner to a second civil war in the United States. Absolutely not. In the first Civil War, very few people even fought in the Civil War. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, what you see the military's got, you see the civilians got. If it ever come down to a second Civil War here in the United States, it's done. It's flat out done. So the best time to stop it is before it ever even starts.
Yeah, right.
The best time to stop any war is before it ever even starts. When they start banging the war drums, you get out there and you start banging the shut up drums and tell them, look here, that's our children that you want to send over there and fight. If you're going to stand in line and you're going to lead the charge, we might follow you up, but you're not sending our children anymore.
That's
our
right.
children are coming back with arms missing, legs missing, brains missing, and some of our children are coming back in boxes, and we're fed up. You got that voice. You can voice that voice anytime you want, and if one voice is loud, you can imagine how much 900 billion loud's going to be.
That's right. She says, you know what? I love every single thing you just said. Okay? It's just exactly what needs to be said. As far as, the God question, let me put it to you this way, and maybe some people will think this is a little bit of a harmful view of the universe, but this is how I see it. There are many gods in my eyes, and there are many messengers that those gods may have. Okay? It is very possible in my mind that the one you like to focus on is a messenger of a god. That's the way I see it, and I see it this way. It is our duty as creatures that we are, as the creations of the Creator, depending on who they may be, it doesn't matter, but it is our absolute duty to deal with this in the most appropriate way. And I say again, what Shaziz said was...
Let him finish.
What Shaziz said, hang on. What Shaziz said was exactly right. If you are in this world and you are offering to your neighbors, to your brothers, to everything around you, if you are giving, if you are creating strength, and you are doing the right thing in that way, this is a victory. This is a victory that will build other victories. And it's just that simple. That's how I see it.
One point of fact that everybody out there, not one single living soul on this planet can deny. When this world comes to an end, we're all going together. And we'll find out when we get to the other end who was right and who was wrong. But this time, this right here, right now, is not the time to fight amongst each other. It's not the time to pit the blacks against the whites, the Christians against the Muslims and the Jews, or whatever. We're all living in the same cesspool that we call life, and it's a mess. And it doesn't have to be this way because we have the technology to feed every single man, woman, and child. We have the technology to shelter the homeless. We have the technology to make sure that there is no terms such as third world countries. We have the technology to get over there. If we got all the money and all the equipment where we can amass armies on borders to go over there and bomb somebody in the Stone Age, then you tell me why it is that we as humanity can't get a bunch of tractors and a bunch of farm equipment over to these folks over there and food and shelter and everything that they need. There's a baby somewhere in this world with tears in his eyes.
That's right.
God didn't do that to you. Everybody out there who doesn't believe in God, hold on a second. Everybody out there who doesn't believe in God, that's fine. You have to walk your own personal spiritual journey. We'll all get there eventually. But one thing I have to tell you is the God that I believe in, He said, thou shalt not kill. He didn't say no ifs, ands, or, buts, and subsection A and Article C and the fine print of paragraph D. He said, thou shalt not kill. You kill each other. God ain't down there killing you. You're killing each other. You're starving that baby. It's we as the combined whole of all of humanity, all these people that's living on this beautiful ball or flat earth, whichever one you want to believe in. I don't care whether it's flat. I don't care whether it's round. I don't care whether it's triangle, chartreuse, or plaid. All I care about is that I have grandchildren. You have children. We have neighbors who have children. We are the founding fathers, the mothers, the sisters, the brothers, the aunts, the uncles, the cousins of our children and our children's children's future. And what we do today will definitely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, define the world that they live in tomorrow. And I can't go to my grave knowing I didn't speak out when it was time to talk.
Wow.
Right. Exactly. Thank you, Shaziz. Rick, you wanted to say something now that we have let Shaziz say all of just about what needed to be said. Go right ahead. You with me, Rick?
I'm humbled.
Barry.
I'm humbled by the fact that what Shaziz just said really said it all. And that the fact Okay, I'm gonna say something, and it's
just go ahead, man.
These people, I don't even want to call them people. These beings that have worked together for the extermination of most who want to enslave, who want to breed us for human sacrifice, who are pure evil, so evil that most people can't even believe such a conspiracy could exist.
Mm.
It is time for humanity to rise. It has been time for such a long time that I believe it might be too late, and we're all going to see the results of the fact that we didn't rise. And all I can say is this. When these things come to place, come into existence, when the internet and power goes off and money is worthless, just remember what Shaziz said, that how we treat one another. And he mentioned thou shalt not kill.
Mm.
What it originally was thou shalt not murder. I believe the satanic freaks out there want us to just bow down and give our lives up.
Well, you know something, Rick?
Let me just finish this, and then you can say something on top of what I was saying. It was originally thou shalt not murder. And murder is different from killing to protect the innocent.
That's defense. That's defense. Rick, you know what though? I hear a weight in your voice, brother. Listen. Please listen to me just for a moment. I want to give you a small gift. Okay? The smallest gift that I can possibly give you. I want to give it to you. I wish I could give it to you right now. And that's one thing. Stop letting that weigh upon you. You understand? You're allowing the knowledge of a lot of ugly things to weigh upon you. I can hear it.
Oh, it does.
I can hear it, though. Tell me I'm wrong, Shaziz.
Let me tell you something, Rick. Jesus in my book. Rick, listen to me. Listen to me. Jesus in my book, whenever the prophets or the people standing around him asking them that, how will we know? He said there'd be signs, but he said something that a lot of people overlook. He said, lest these days be numbered, then these things must come to pass. And he was talking about all the terrible things that would be coming about at the end times. And basically what he said was that unless humanity gets their act together, unless they change their ways and start to follow God again, then all these things that were prophesied would come to pass. So he also said that no man would know the time or day, that he would come like a thief in the night, which means that we can't sit around and wait to find out when God's going to show up and clean house. We got to clean house. We got to, when our Father shows back up here, we need to have our house in order, so that all those things that were prophesied, that they weren't written in stone. The book says that they were written in stone, but if that were the case, and as far as I'm concerned, Jesus couldn't lie. He said, lest these days be shortened, that these would come to pass. We are starting a chain reaction, the dominoes tipping towards humanity's favor, to where we're pointing these things out to people. We are not defeated. We have not laid down to evil. There are dark things that need to come to light, and we'll put them out there. We'll shine the light on every roaches and watch them scurry to 4 points of this compass. But by God, as long as I got a breath in me, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to lay down to the boogeyman. I'm not laying down to Satan, and I'm not going to lay down to fear. I'll slap Satan upside the head with my Bible and tell him, get behind me, Satan, because I ain't playing that game.
Amen.
Well, there you go. And you know, coming at it again, I say to you, I would love to give you the gift of letting go of that weight. Because here's the thing. You can manifest all of the better parts of the world without carrying that weight in your own little area, in your own way. And you can encourage that in others. It doesn't have to be about the darkness. We don't just have to shine light on the darkness. We got to shine the light on the light. We got to shine the light everywhere. You understand?
Take our brothers and sisters in the world to the light.
And let them see it as well.
Amen.
Okay? That is the reality, and I would love for you to let go of that weight, brother. I really, really would. Because it weighs down every one of your statements. It weighs down all of what you're saying. These are not the works that you need to encourage by doing that. Okay? That's the thing. That's the thing. That's why, like I said, I can't get into,
I feel so much pain for the fact that maybe tonight, as we're speaking, they are torturing a human child. They're raping a human child, and they're going to rip its heart out and drink its blood and eat its body. The fact that such animals, such disgusting evil exists is overwhelming upon my soul. Okay, it's like just...
Yeah, and I understand that. And I feel it too, because unfortunately for me sometimes I'm empathetic as well. And I understand that there is not a corner of this world, there is not a single place on this planet where there is not unnecessary suffering at this point in time. We're immersed in it. If you want to allow that.
But the thing is, Chuck, is that most people don't even want to admit that it's going on. They're too busy watching sports and television.
Yeah.
They call us conspiracy theorists. And they're going to do that to them next in the FEMA camps and stuff. And it just crushes me that we
can't. Not on my watch, they're not. Because I will stand up, even if no greater can be given than to lay your life down for a brother or the Lord, is what I understood.
They don't believe that there were the people who come to the network that are hungry for the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are the people who just don't believe that people could be that evil or that something like this could really be going on. And I know it is. And there's not a day that I don't wake up and think about the victims and the people that are going through this and the families that have lost people.
I know.
Or people who want to come out of Satanism wanting to tell the truth about what they're doing, that are being executed or persecuted or locked up. It's like they've made us all criminals for speaking the truth.
But here's the thing, man. You can't just focus on the victims. You got to give them some victory as well. Okay? It is not keeping shining light on the evil things that are done is not going to end them. Okay, you end them by resisting. You heard how Shaziz put it, right? You heard how he said that so long as he's here, he's going to defend his brothers. He's going to defend those he knows are his brothers. Now, I don't even need to introduce God into that statement. I don't even need to discuss it. We don't even need to discuss the evils that are done. If we could just encourage that alone.
No, but we do need to discuss the evils that are done to expose the truth. So
I understand, and I discuss evils also. That's true, but don't let it rule. But the thing is, don't let it rule who you are. Listen to it crushing you, man. I mean, can anybody else hear this, or is it just me?
Yeah, he's got a lot of pain in his heart, and I understand because I've had times I had to go to talk to my pastor after seeing something that I just couldn't fathom that people would do to each other. Listen, Charles, I am not lying. I have seen some things that no man or woman should ever have to see, and I've probably cried rivers worth of tears in my life. I've done it live on air a few times, cried, because it breaks my heart to think that there's the suffering going on out there in this world. And I don't know. I really don't, because when I look outside my door, I don't see terrorists hiding behind the bush. I don't see bombs going off. I'm fortunate enough not to live in a war zone.
Yes, sir.
So I don't know how much of what's mainstream media.
But I'll tell you something. Well, hang on, Shaziz. I'll tell you something, though. I have experienced things that no human being should have experienced in my life. Not everybody, matter of fact, nobody on this call actually knows my story. Nobody really publicly knows all of my story. But let me tell you something. I would have preferred death at least 100 times in my life to the things that I endured. But here's the thing. Survival is a victory. Resistance is a victory. A refusal to hold on to that pain, even if it is my own pain, even if it did leave a physical scar, even if it did leave a spiritual scar. You know what? It does not define me, and it does not need to define the world around us. A different way can be had if we encourage the kind of strength that you were speaking from.
Amen.
We do not have to be weak. We do not have to lay down. We do not have to give in to any of this. There shall always be ugly things, evil things, vicious people. There shall always be.
Yep, the world does not define me. I define myself.
That's right,
We have
Annie.
the power to with our words.
I don't believe it will always be. I believe what we are seeing is that
there's a mass awakening. There is a mass gathering happening.
It's coming to the surface to a point where people are going to say no more. No more. And this creator of us, there's a creator and a destructive force in this universe. And I believe that we are the embodiment of those that awaken people to the truth. And even though we have different beliefs or we have been misled by people who claim to be of God when they're not, that the jig is up and that this is it. I really believe we are facing a time in society that whether Jesus Christ is returning to destroy it all and a massive Holocaust like nothing ever seen is about to take place, or whether we're going to win this. Either way, we need to stand up.
But you know what, Rick? That's exactly right.
Governments have failed us. Governments failed us.
But Rick, that's exactly right. We need to stand up. We, you, me, Barry, Shaziz, anybody listening to this, we're not in control of whether or not Jesus is going to return. We're not in control of when that's going to happen. What we can control is our own actions. And those actions can result in a change all by themselves.
No man knows the time or day that he would come like a thief in the night. So with that said, it ain't over till the fat lady sings. And by God, as long as we can stand our bodies and our minds and our voices as buffers between the weak, then we have a chance to win this deal outright without ever even raising a sword.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Barry, you've been kind of quiet. You want to add into this?
I'm quite honest, gentlemen. I'm enjoying this conversation.
Barry's loving this. This is the greatest together I've ever heard.
Did you ever think you'd hear me speaking like this, Barry?
No, but you know, Charles, I've known you for a fair time now. I don't know exactly how long we've known each other, but I know that you have some really deep thoughts, and we don't share opinions 100% on certain things. But I know that you know that there is some very, very evil things going on in this world right now. And if there is evil, there's got to be good. And right now, what we're seeing on this planet, man, it absolutely astounds me. I cannot believe the acceleration of events I'm seeing. Where it's going, I'm not sure. Whether this is it's being played out the way it was supposed to be played out, I don't have that answer. All I know is that at this particular point in history, there's nothing more important than sharing your love with your fellow man and your fellow beings. Smile at people and share love with them, because that has a bigger impact on people's lives than anything else, period. That's all I really
Wouldn't
want to say.
it be cool, literally? Wouldn't it be cool to literally be able to follow a smile from your face to see how far it traveled?
You know how much a smile does to people when you smile and you talk to people and you're friendly to them? You know what kind of effect that has? I mean, people, I end up having conversations with total strangers, somebody I've never met before. Start a smile, talk to them, and all of a sudden they're into conversation. People want to talk. People want to communicate.
Yes.
It's what's been taken out of our society is communication between us. Those breakdowns are things that we have to work on. We have to work on the divisions in our society. Like we talked earlier, we're all fighting amongst each other.
Absolutely.
We're fighting amongst each other, Charles.
Barry, you know what?
We don't need to do that.
Barry, look, I hate to cut you off, but here's the thing. I added Matt into the discussion and wanted to give him a chance because we're almost out of time. I wanted to give him a chance to add his thoughts to this whole discussion just before we're out of here. Yeah.
Go ahead.
When you're done with your show, we can continue this and you can join us on Shake and Wake Radio.
See, I can for a couple of minutes, but I have another interview after this show. So, but Matt, I wanted to give you a chance to speak, brother, before we run out of time. So, go ahead, sir.
Hey, Chuck, how you doing? I see you got your Radio Star and a few others on here. I guess I just kind of wanted to go back to the beginning, you know, when we're talking about listeners that are connected to this, listeners that are hearing your voice, and believe it or not, the words you speak here tonight, tomorrow, leave a lasting impression, kind of like a child. You know, a child's going to believe anything an adult tells them. And this kind of works in the same way. I think it all goes back to getting that listener in here for the first time. And I think if you're talking about positive things, I think if you're talking about solutions, they might hang around. They might tune back in. I believe, and I've heard this from several people, like Barry was talking about, you know, talking to strangers on the street and asked them about alternative radio. And they've said, yeah, you know, I wanted to get away from the TV. I tried it. I went to a few places, but all they were talking about was death and doom and gloom. And that's why I got away from the TV. I wanted to get away from that. So I think that's what we need to concentrate on most before opening the big picture of what has been happening to us over decades. We need to get the people in here. And we're not going to do that with heads being chopped off, with blood being drank. That's not going to work.
No, you know what? You're right. I'm not going to hide from any of the ugliness, but I'm also not going to help it in any way, shape, or form. That's exactly, and I know you listen to me a lot, Matt, and I appreciate it, you know, because you know what my attitude is here. And you know what the attitude is that I try to encourage in others, which is that you do not need to fear. You do not need to lay down to no matter what it is you see as the mechanized systems of destruction, pain, or agony in any part of this planet, okay? You don't need to surrender to any of them.
Is that my buddy Justin from our old radio network? Justin. Is that my old buddy?
Justin. Who's Justin?
Hi, Justin Time from Rev Radio.
Oh, I was over there for many years.
Yeah. Hey, I love you, my brother. I recognize your voice. Hey, you know what? We're not so different.
That's right. We're not so different. That is the end of the Ochelli Effect on American Freedom Radio. I appreciate everybody for joining us. Barry, Prince, Rick, Annie, Shaziz, Matt. You know what? Everybody who joined us and listened in, I appreciate you. Please stay tuned to AFR because there is something else coming up. Who knows what it is, but it will be interesting.
This will continue on Shake and Wake Radio.
This will continue on Shake and Wake Radio just as it has. But anyway, guys, have a good night, and I'll see you on Monday.